You're listening to Side by Side with Kathy Wilson, episode 25 Say Cheese. It had been a lengthy sermon. Hickory was getting an extra long nap, and I was definitely feeling envious when the minister gave his final blessing and it was time for coffee. My keen guide must have sensed the change in atmosphere or picked up on the murmur of voices, for all at once Hickory's slumbers came to an abrupt halt. She lifted her head and gave herself a joyful stretch. Things were finally happening. "Oh, it's about time. Why can't we have coffee hour first and then skip the churchy stuff? The couch at home is much more comfortable to sleep on." Hickory rested her head on my lap and continued to wonder why we were here when we could be at the Dairy Queen. She wasn't in the least bit concerned with her soul, but her stomach provided huge responsibility, as Crazy Cat had no idea about the things dogs preferred. Leave it to Crazy Cat and her belly would be full of kibble and milk bones. Coffee hour provided the perfect opportunity to augment her sad diet with far better fare than Cat was forking out. She wagged her tail with anticipation as she took me to the boardroom and to an empty seat next to a table. This was when things began to misfire. I continued to clutch Hickory's leash when she wanted to make her way around to call on all of her friends. By now she had quite a few, but was always eager to make more. Of course, she had her favorites, too. She adored Edie, who was wheelchair-bound, but never failed to have carrot sticks or some green beans for my partner. Edie's daughter Shirley was directing the wheelchair into an available space, and Hickory wanted to be on hand for pets, caresses, and anything else Edie had for her. Hickory looked about once more and noticed Dawn and a bit further on Stuart, who liked to wrestle with her, and still Cat was clinging to her leash. This was a fine state of affairs to be in. "Will you just give over and let me circulate? You're being difficult, Crazy Cat." Perhaps I was being difficult, but Hickory was acting most annoying. "Pickled lard balls, Hickory, can't you control yourself for a few more minutes? People aren't all seated yet, and they don't need to trip over you with hot cups of coffee." This was of no importance to my guide. She had found me a chair. Now she wanted to be off duty for the duration. Shirley approached me with a cup of coffee and an assortment of cookies. "Mom wants to know if Hickory is going to come over and have a treat." I undid the buckle on the harness and lifted it over Hickory's head and handed Shirley her leash. My girl was already pulling in Edie's direction. She didn't have to pull Shirley far, as Edie was only 2 tables over from us. It wasn't difficult to hear the ensuing exchange between Shirley and her mother. "Oh, Hickory, don't you look happy today with your wagging tail? Just a minute and I'll give you a treat." That irrepressible tail continued to wave enthusiastically as Edie turned to Shirley. "Did you remember to bring the treats for Hickory today? It was a long service and she needs something to tide her over." "Oh, no, it completely slipped my mind. We were so rushed this morning. I am sorry. I'll remember next week." I could hear from the tone of Shirley's voice that she was full of regret, and she always remembered Hickory on the other Sundays, but it was evident that both Edie and Hickory were thoroughly disappointed. Edie stroked Hickory's head with her gentle touch, giving as well as receiving comfort, while Hickory rested her head on Edie's knee. Edie promised, "Never mind, Hickory. Next week I will be sure to remind Shirley about your treats." A few minutes later, I heard a familiar voice calling me. Hickory was paying a visit with Don for certain. "Hey, Kathy, are you still beating your dog?" "Not today, Don. It's Sunday." He always asked me that same question, and if he soon didn't tire of it, I would run out of clever repartee. It was then that our minister approached me, and I lost track of my mischievous Labrador. "Good morning, Kathy. Are you still interested in transferring your church membership?" I answered, "It is time I became a member. I have been attending church here for quite a while." The minister nodded in agreement and informed me cheerfully about the next membership class. "I will be holding classes next Sunday afternoon for the next 10 weeks, starting next Sunday. We'll see you in the boardroom next Sunday afternoon then." With that, he was on his way, no doubt seeking his next unsuspecting victim. 10 weeks? How did I end up in this pig's wallow of a mess? There were so many wonderful things to do on Sunday afternoon, but attending school wasn't one of them. I hated school in any way, shape, or form. Hickory rested her chin on my hand. She always knew when my positive attitude declined into negative territory. "Come on, Cat, it isn't that bad. Let's go to the Dairy Queen. You will feel so much better." Trust Hickory. Her sympathy came with a price, of course. Hickory didn't want ice cream. She was thinking entirely of her dear partner's needs. If you believe that, then perhaps I can sell you the CN Tower. Hickory was correct. My cone did a lot to lift my mood, but it was certainly not sky high. When we got home, Ralph wanted to know what the minister's sermon was about, and I didn't have a clue. "Eh, what? What do you mean, you haven't a clue? Weren't you there? He did have a sermon, didn't he?" "Oh, I expect he did. But the sermon isn't my favorite part of the service. I go for the music. The singing can carry me right up to the gates of heaven, but the best sermon ever written won't even get me out of the city." This heretical announcement left my husband bewildered. "I don't understand how you can sit through church and not hear the sermon. What are you doing then, sleeping?" "No, Hickory does all the sleeping for both of us." I knew exactly what Ralph's brain was stuck on. This was not the first time Ralph had taken me to perdition over my inattention to the sermon. It was one of the things he felt I needed to improve on. I think I was smelling the coffee brewing and wondering how many pages the minister would turn before he reached the end, and then I thought about a different idea for making my bread, and then I heard Lois complaining about how sore her fanny felt on these hard pews. My mind was pretty busy. "Oh, by the way, the minister is having membership classes for everybody who wants to become an official member of the church. I requested to have my membership transferred, and now I have to attend the weeks of classes. You will probably sleep through those too." I doubt if I could get away with it. He would probably embarrass me by asking a question if he thought that I was sleeping. What you can get away with during a church service doesn't hold true in a small membership class. This was a fact I was certain could be taken to the bank. What had I stumbled into? Hickory would have to guide me out of this mess, otherwise I was lost. Goodbye Sunday afternoons. The following Sunday afternoon found Hickory and I seated in the boardroom at my church. Our minister was taking attendance, and I felt like I was in grade 1. Perhaps I should raise my hand and ask if I can go to the washroom. The little angel on my right shoulder told me to behave myself, while the demon on my left urged me to give it a try. It seemed like the safer course was to remain quiet. So I did, and the class ground slowly forward. Why do you think God gave Moses the 10 Commandments? Kathy, what do you think? The minister's expression appeared quite earnest. Did he really want to know my thoughts? So we can resist the devil on our shoulder when he is leading us from the straight and narrow. It should be noted that my personal demon was trying very hard to lead me astray, but he wasn't smart enough or strong enough to overcome the angel on my right. I think her name is Gladys. The demon is known as Pete. That's why people use the expression, "Oh, for Pete's sake." When we got home, I gave Hickory her dinner and put the kettle on for a pot of tea. This was an emergency and only tea would do. How did your first class go? What was it about? Ralph was looking on with great interest. I just knew he was looking forward to hearing about my blunders and bloopers. Maybe it was my turn to surprise him for a change. Today the minister was talking about Moses and the 10 Commandments, and I answered a question he asked me. There, I bet that startled him. Yeah? What did he ask you? Ralph appeared really skeptical. I bet he didn't think I would get it right. He asked me why God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. He looked right at me and pulled that question out of thin air. What did you tell him? I was wondering if I should give him a straight answer or if I should just tell a whopper. That's when Pete took over, while Gladys was dunking a cookie into her cuppa. Well, I am not God, so how would I know that? Maybe there were these bare tablets of stone, and God thought, why not write down the 10 Commandments? You said that? Do you think this was the answer he was looking for? The poor guy must think he's teaching kindergarten. How am I supposed to know what answer the minister is looking for? I'm not a mind reader. I was then retreated to a discourse concerning good and evil while I sipped my tea. If Ralph soon didn't run down, I would need a Rickard's Red. Tea just wasn't strong enough for one of Ralph's diatribes. Sunday afternoon followed. Sunday afternoon, with good old Gladys in firm control of my words and actions. Pete and I were feeling a certain amount of frustration, but my halo took on a certain glow, and it was obvious that the minister directed more and more questions in my direction. On the final day of class, I was counting the minutes until it came to a final close. Somehow or other, Hickory and I had survived the ordeal, and we were almost home free. It was then that Ruby asked if that was Hickory snoring under the table. Ruby fancied herself the minister's star pupil and viewed me as an upstart who needed to be put in my place. She honestly believed that she was the one to do it. Silly woman! My eyes may not be working, but my brain certainly is. Our minister inquired of me if my dog was sleeping. I could hear Gladys murmuring into my ear, "Now, Kathy, you behave yourself." To my left, Pete was exclaiming, "Poor miserable canine can't even have a nap. The only thing Ruby rules around here is the rectum. She's certainly right at home in Satan's realm." I can tell you that it is pure hell, feeling so conflicted, and furthermore, Pete was right. Hick wasn't snoring that loudly. Ruby was smirking, and it might be fun to put pepper in her coffee or itching powder in her drawers. Yes, Sundays are rough on her because she is out all day working hard. I don't know how she can sleep on such an unforgiving floor. Wake up, Hickory. I gave her a tiny nudge with my toe and hoped that I didn't disturb her slumber. Shortly after, the minister said that he wanted to take a picture of the class on Thursday morning. Oh, flaming crumpets! Will it never cease? I would be there anyway because of crafts, but who wants to get a photo taken anyway? I'd rather drink coffee and knit. I have picked up a lot of information while clicking my needles. When I leave, I always know a lot more than I did when I came in. I became aware of Gladys whispering that I needed to stay calm and behave myself. Not this time, baby. All week long I plotted and rejected different possibilities. Pete had a few ideas, but he mostly rejected mine because they weren't evil enough. Well, I wasn't seeking evil, only satisfaction. If I can annoy Gladys, that would be okay. But to frustrate the minister ambition would be sweet indeed. Craft started early Thursday morning, and I had to be at church with my knitting for 9 o'clock in the morning. I put on the coffee and made oatmeal for breakfast. Ralph loved his oatmeal. I quickly dressed in my photo outfit. This ought to put someone's sock in a knot, guaranteed. Cat, where are you going in that? Where I go every Thursday morning, to crafts, of course. I was eager to leave before Ralph got carried away. That leather skirt is too short. I have mentioned this before. You should put a ruffle or something on it. You don't put ruffles on leather skirts. No one would ever consider that. Well, it's too darn short, and those red western boots go up to your knees. Why you need red boots is beyond me. You have perfectly good shoes you could wear. Ralph, we're just going to crafts, not a beauty pageant. Good thing the judges would laugh you right off the stage. I'm not sure if you look like a flapper or a cowgirl. Now I think about it, with all of those red curls, you could be little orphan Annie. With Ralph's last summation, Hickory and I managed a hasty exit. I was relieved that he had not noticed my black fishnet stockings, which I considered to be the highlight of my entire ensemble. This would add color, humor, and bravado to what had been a series of lackluster afternoons at Sunday classes. Gladys was not pleased. She told me to listen to Ralph for once and grow up. Pete was looking forward to the minister's reaction to my outfit. When we entered the craft room, Shirley was putting the coffee pot on to perk. Kathy, I don't think I've ever seen those red boots before. Are they comfortable? I could tell that Shirley was really studying my outfit, but said nothing else. This was not the case when Joy flew in. "Whoa, Cat, looks like you're going to a party or some kind. You'll win first prize." No, not a party, Joy. The minister is taking a picture of the membership class for this year, and I didn't want to look dowdy. Now Shirley was looking curious. When is he taking the picture? We're supposed to be in the boardroom for 10 o'clock. I doubt that it will take long for one photo. I don't want to miss out on crafts. Joy started to laugh. You scallywag, I can't wait to see the picture. At the appointed hour, Hickory guided me to the boardroom. Although I was on time, Ruby sweetly suggested that they had feared I wouldn't come. We were placed where the minister wanted us to be. I was seated in the middle of the front row. Obviously, my outfit had failed to concern our minister, or perhaps he even liked it. He kept switching people around, but I was left sitting in the conspicuous front row. Bother! Was he waiting for me to do the can-can? Why didn't he just snap the photo and be done with it? Hickory began to think the same thing and inched her way under my chair. Was there enough room for me there too? Probably not. It was after 11 when the minister took the final shot, and we were free to go our separate ways. Joy greeted me as I entered the craft room. I sure needed another refill from my coffee cup. I love coffee, I love tea, I love jive and it loves me. So, Kat, that was a long time for one picture. What did the minister think of your costume? He didn't mention it at all. He failed to notice it. I heard the disappointment in my voice. Of course he noticed it. Everybody knows that you wear pizzazz like a second skin. He was expecting it, that's all. I could feel waves of disapproval emanating from Gladys. Pete seemed satisfied with the morning's exploits. Hickory managed to finagle a crispy slice of apple from Shirley. And I learned that Kat wears pizzazz like a second skin. How about that? I wonder if it itches. I needed to give that some thought.